Hello and welcome, my dear friend. Right now, in this very moment, something extraordinary is happening. You are outside of time, not in the way we usually think about it. The clock is still ticking, the days are still passing, but you are here, aware, existing in a space where past, present, and future are blending together in ways that most people never stop to notice. Because time, at least the way we've been told to see it, is not what it seems. Think about it. How often have you measured your life by age, by deadlines, by expectations that were handed to you before you even had the chance to question them? You were told that by a certain age, you should have certain things, be in certain places, act a certain way. And maybe, for a while, you tried to keep up with that invisible rule book. But here's the real question: who wrote those rules? And more importantly, do they actually belong to you? Because what if the biggest limitation in your life right now isn't your circumstances, your abilities, or even the world around you, but the invisible timeline you've been trying to keep up with? What if age was never meant to be a countdown? What if success was never meant to have a deadline? What if the only thing keeping you from feeling completely, undeniably free is the belief that you're running out of time? Because let's be honest, how many of your dreams have been put on hold, not because they're impossible, but because you convinced yourself they were meant for a different time? Maybe you told yourself it was too late, or maybe you told yourself it was too early, that you weren't ready yet. Either way, the result was the same. You paused. You hesitated. You let the weight of expectation press down on you until you started believing that certain things were only possible at certain points in life. But what if that was never true? Think about it. Who decided that success, love, or personal fulfillment had to come with an expiration date? Why do we accept this idea that youth is for dreaming, adulthood is for working, and old age is for regretting the things we didn't do when we had the chance? It's not real. It never was. And yet, most people live their entire lives trapped inside that illusion, measuring their worth against a timeline that was never theirs to begin with. But not you. Because you're here. You're questioning. You're waking up to the truth that time is not a rigid path. It's a space, a perspective. And when you understand that, something shifts. Suddenly, regret begins to disappear. Opportunities don't run out anymore. They start appearing everywhere because you're no longer filtering them through the lens of too early or too late. And most importantly, you stop seeing yourself as incapable of becoming or achieving something simply because it doesn't fit into society's scripted timeline. You stop aging, at least in the way the world expects you to. Because the moment you detach yourself from this artificial sense of time, something incredible happens. You don't just pass through life anymore, you live it. If this is speaking to you, if something inside of you is lighting up right now, drop 888 in the comments, because that number is a symbol of infinite possibility. And if you're here, I already know that's exactly what's opening up for you. Think about how different your days would feel if you weren't constantly trying to catch up to an invisible deadline. How much energy would you regain if you stopped asking yourself, "Am I where I'm supposed to be?" and started asking, "Does this feel right to me?" Because that's the real key here. It's not about ignoring time completely. It's about using it differently. It's about recognizing that deadlines, goals, and milestones are only useful when they come from within you, not when they are handed to you by a society that treats age like a ticking bomb. So let me ask you, have you ever stopped to ask yourself if the future you're working toward is truly the one you want? Or have you just assumed that the things you should want, the career, the house, the status, the lifestyle, are what will actually fulfill you? Because there's a difference between a life that impresses others and a life that fulfills you. And sometimes we spend so long chasing the former that we don't even realize we've lost sight of the latter. But here's the beautiful thing. The moment you start choosing the things that truly resonate with you, instead of the things you've been told you should want, time begins to bend in your favor. It stops feeling like a race. You stop feeling behind, because you're no longer measuring your life by how well it fits into someone else's script. Instead, you're moving in sync with something much more powerful, your own internal rhythm. And when that happens, everything changes, because the universe isn't following a human-made timeline. It doesn't care if you think you should have achieved something by 30, 40, or 70. It only responds to energy, to the choices you make, to the way you show up for your own path. And when you start living in a way that aligns with what truly matters to you, you'll notice something strange. The things you once struggled to achieve suddenly start happening effortlessly. Why? Because you're no longer resisting the flow of your own life. And when you stop resisting, life takes you to places you never even imagined. I say this with absolute certainty. When you release the pressure of artificial timelines, when you step fully into the flow of your own energy, you start seeing things differently. You start noticing the signs, the synchronicities, the subtle ways the universe nudges you in the right direction. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, you actually start to feel at home in your own life. Because you're no longer trying to fit yourself into a timeline that was never designed for you. You're creating your own. And let me tell you, there is nothing more powerful than a person who realizes they are free. It feels like you're aging backward. Things that once seemed impossible start to feel possible, and stagnation begins to feel like fruition. And this is just the beginning. And once you see it, once you truly see it, there's no going back. Because when you break free from the illusion of time as a limitation, you start living in a completely different reality. A reality where regret doesn't exist. Because regret only thrives in a world where you believe you've missed something. But what if you accepted, right now, that nothing was ever truly missed? That every experience, every choice, even the so-called delays in your life, were all part of a greater rhythm, a perfect unfolding that was never meant to follow society's clock. Because think about it. How many times have you looked back on your life and realized that something you once saw as a failure was actually a redirection? How many times did you think something was happening too late, only to realize later that it happened at the exact right time? This is the truth that changes everything. There is no right timing. There is only divine timing. And divine timing doesn't operate on human deadlines. It moves in ways that don't always make sense in the moment. But when you trust it, when you stop trying to force things to fit into artificial time frames, you begin to see just how much was always working in your favor. And that's when something incredible happens. Suddenly, opportunities start revealing themselves, not because they weren't there before, but because you've finally stopped filtering them through the lens of too soon or too late. You stop feeling like you have to rush to achieve something, because you understand that nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by. And maybe, for the first time, you start seeing age, not as a countdown, not as a limitation, but as something entirely irrelevant to what's possible for you. Because let's talk about that for a second. How many people do you think have given up on something? Not because they didn't have the potential, not because they didn't have the ability, but simply because they believed they were too old to start. How many dreams were abandoned because someone looked at a calendar instead of looking within themselves? And how many people never even started because they convinced themselves they had missed their chance? But then there are the others. The ones who ignored the numbers. The ones who decided that age was nothing but a detail. that their dreams didn't come with an expiration date. The ones who started something at 40, 50, 60 and changed their entire lives because they refused to believe they were too late. And let's be clear, it works the other way too. How many young people hold themselves back because they believe they're too early? Because they think they need to wait before they can step into their power, their success, their potential. But here's the truth. The people who live the most extraordinary lives aren't the ones who follow a timeline. They're the ones who ignore it completely. The ones who start when they feel called to start. The ones who reinvent themselves at any age. The ones who don't care if society thinks they should wait or if it's too late. Because they understand that life doesn't operate on a fixed schedule. And the second you embrace that truth, really embrace it, you unlock something that most people never do. A sense of freedom so powerful that it changes the way you experience everything. Because suddenly, you're not bound by the expectations of time anymore. You don't see aging as a loss, you see it as an expansion. You don't see delays as failures, you see them as alignment. And most importantly, you stop hesitating. You stop waiting for permission. You stop measuring yourself against a world that is stuck in its own illusions. Because you finally understand, deeply, undeniably, that your life is not meant to fit into a timeline. Your life is meant to fit you. And if that means starting something new at 20, do it. If it means walking away from something at 50, do it. If it means reinventing yourself at 70, do it. Because let me tell you something, the universe doesn't care about your age. The universe doesn't hand out opportunities based on how many years you've been here. It responds to energy. It responds to people who are willing to step outside the illusion of time and into the reality of possibility. And if you're still listening to this, I already know something about you. You are one of those people. You are not here for an average life. You are not here to follow a script written by someone else. You are here to experience the fullness of life, not on a timeline, not according to the clock, but exactly as it unfolds for you. And maybe that's the only thing you ever really needed to know, that it's not too late, that it's not too early, that it's just timeless. And that's exactly where you're headed. Because now that you see it, now that you truly understand, there's no going back. This is your moment, and you are exactly where you need to be. I see you, I believe in you, and I can't wait to hear about what happens next, because I already know it's going to be incredible. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. If this message resonated, please like, share it with someone who might benefit, and subscribe to stay connected. Continue your awakening journey by choosing one of the videos on your screen that resonates with you the most. See you there.